Okay, so today we're diving into something a little different. Um, Ancient military strategy.
Sounds intense.
It kind of is right, but also fascinating. We're talking about Sun Tzu's The Art of War.
Ah, a classic. And it's not just for generals anymore.
Right, everyone from CEOs to coaches quote Sun Tzu. So what's the deal with this book? Why is it still so popular?
Well, for our deep dive, we're looking at Lionel Giles's 1910 translation. And let me tell you, it's packed with insights that are still relevant today.
Okay, so no matter what battle we're facing in our own lives, there's something we can learn from a centuries-old military treatise.
Absolutely. And I think a good place to start is with Sun Tzu's 5 fundamental factors that he says govern warfare.
5 factors. Okay, I can handle that. What are they?
So we've got moral law, heaven, earth, the commander, and method and discipline.
Okay, moral law, heaven, earth. This is starting to sound a little less like military strategy and a little more like a philosophy lecture.
Well, Sun Tzu was a pretty insightful guy, but it's not as abstract as it sounds. Let's take moral law, for example. You might think it's about ethics, right?
Yeah, like rules of engagement and all that.
Sure. But for Sun Tzu, it goes deeper. It's about the bond between a ruler and their people. It's that deep trust where people would follow their leader, even if it meant certain death.
Wow. Okay, so you're saying it's about inspiring that level of trust and loyalty. That's intense.
Absolutely. It's about getting people to believe in your vision so completely that they're willing to risk everything for it.
So it's that leadership X factor. Do you think that kind of leadership is even possible today?
That's a great question. I think we see glimpses of it, right? Leaders who inspire that level of dedication and commitment. Think about
People who are like super passionate about the company they work for.
exactly. There's a belief there, right?
Ah.
A sense that they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's moral law. What about heaven? Does Sun Tzu want us to like check our horoscopes before making a move?
Not quite heaven in Sun Tzu's world refers to the elements, the weather, the time of day, the seasons, things that are beyond our control, but that can have a huge impact on the outcome of a battle.
So like a sudden storm could ruin your whole strategy.
Exactly. And Sun Tzu knew that anticipating and adapting to these forces was crucial.
So heaven is all about being aware of the things you can't control and rolling with the punches.
Precisely. And that leads us to Earth.
Which is?
It's about understanding the terrain, both literally and figuratively. For Sun Tzu, it was about knowing the battlefield, the mountains, rivers, where to find cover. But for us, it might be about understanding the competitive landscape of our industry or even just the dynamics of our own team at work.
So if I'm launching a new product, Earth is like doing my market research, knowing my target audience, my competition, all of that.
Exactly. It's about being prepared, knowing the playing field, as well as, your own strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, so we've got moral law, heaven, earth. 2 more to go. What about the commander?
This one's all about leadership qualities. Sun Tzu believed that an effective leader embodies wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness.
So a real Renaissance person then.
Laughing. In a way, yes. But seriously, he believed these qualities were essential for inspiring and motivating people.
Makes sense. You need people to believe in you if you want them to follow you into battle, figuratively or literally.
Absolutely. And last but not least, we have method and discipline, which is all about, well, being methodical and disciplined.
Okay, so this one's a little more straightforward.
It is, but no less important. This is about organization, logistics, clear chains of command. It's the difference between a well-oiled machine and total chaos.
I'm getting strong project management vibes from this one.
Right. Even with the best strategy in the world, if you can't execute it effectively, you're sunk.
So to sum up, Sun Tzu's 5 factors are like the foundational pillars of success. No matter what you're trying to achieve, whether it's launching a business or just getting through a tough week, these principles can help you stay grounded, focused, and adaptable.
Exactly. And believe it or not, these 5 factors tie into Sun Tzu's thoughts on deception, which we'll get to after a quick break.
Don't go anywhere. Things are about to get sneaky.
So you're ready to get into Sun Tzu's sneaky side.
Always. Lay it on me. What did Sun Tzu have to say about deception in war?
Well, he starts by saying all warfare is based on deception. So that gives you an idea of how important he thought it was.
Okay, makes sense. But how do you actually use deception in war?
Well, he gives us a bunch of different tactics. One is appearing weak when you're actually strong.
Okay, I can see how that would be useful. Throw your opponent off guard, right?
Exactly. If they think you're weak, they might let their guard down, become overconfident, and then you can strike when they least expect it.
Ooh, I like it. What else?
Another tactic is feigning disorder. So you might pretend that your troops are disorganized or that you're retreating when you're actually planning a surprise attack.
So it's all about keeping your enemy guessing.
Exactly. Sun Tzu knew that the more unpredictable you are, the harder it is for your opponent to counter your moves.
It's like a game of chess, right? You're always trying to think a few steps ahead of your opponent.
Perfect analogy. And just like in chess, sometimes the best move is the one your opponent doesn't see coming.
So we've got appearing weak, feigning disorder.
Right.
Any other sneaky tactics we should know about?
Well, Sun Tzu also talks about the importance of choosing your battles carefully. He says, he will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight.
So it's not always about charging into battle.
Nope. Sometimes it's better to wait for the right opportunity or to choose a battlefield that gives you an advantage.
So it's about picking your moments, knowing when to strike and when to hold back.
Exactly. And this ties into another important concept from Sun Tzu, indirect tactics.
Indirect tactics, what are those?
So you've got your direct tactics, which are pretty straightforward. You're attacking your enemy head-on, trying to overpower them with brute force.
Makes sense. But I'm guessing Sun Tzu was more of a fan of the indirect approach.
You know it. He understood that while direct confrontation has its place, it's often not enough to secure a decisive victory.
So what's the alternative?
That's where indirect tactics come in. It's about being more strategic, more cunning. You might try to outmaneuver your opponent, attack their supply lines, or target their weaknesses.
So more like a strategic flanking maneuver.
Precisely. It's about finding ways to disrupt your opponent's plans and throw them off balance. And Sun Tzu has a brilliant analogy to illustrate this concept.
Oh.
He compares these two types of tactics to water.
Water. Okay, I'm listening.
So Sun Tzu says, water shapes its course according to the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing.
So just like water finds the path of least resistance, a good strategist adapts to the situation and finds the best way to achieve their goals.
Exactly. It's about being flexible, adaptable, always looking for that opening to exploit.
That's a powerful image. And it makes a lot of sense, right? If you encounter an obstacle, you don't just keep banging your head against it, you find a way around it.
Exactly. And that's what Sun Tzu is getting at with his concept of indirect tactics. It's about being adaptable, creative, and always looking for that unexpected angle.
So to sum it up, Sun Tzu believed that deception and strategic maneuvering were just as important as brute force when it came to warfare.
Absolutely. And he gave us a whole playbook of tactics for how to do it effectively.
This is fascinating stuff. But how do we actually apply these ancient military strategies to our own lives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's what we're going to explore after the break. We'll be right back.
So before the break, we were talking about how Sun Tzu viewed deception and strategic maneuvering as being just as important as brute force in warfare.
Right. And one of the ways he believed you could gain a strategic advantage was through espionage.
Espionage. Okay, so we're talking spies and secrets now.
Exactly. Sun Tzu had a lot to say about the importance of intelligence gathering. He actually identified 5 different types of spies that he believed were essential for success in warfare.
5 types of spies. That seems a little excessive, isn't there? Just one basic kind?
Well, not according to Sun Tzu. He was very specific about the different roles that spies could play in gathering intel and disrupting the enemy.
Okay, so who are these 5 mysterious figures?
Well, first, you've got your local spies. These are the ones you recruit from the enemy's own people. They blend in, gather information, and report back to you.
So like sleeper agents?
Kind of. They're your eyes and ears on the ground.
Makes sense. What about the other types?
Then you've got inward spies. These are enemy officials or soldiers who've been bribed or coerced into working for you.
Ooh, juicy. So it's like turning your enemy's own people against them.
Exactly. They can provide valuable inside information about the enemy's plans and movements.
That's got to be a risky move, though, right? I mean, how can you ever really trust a spy who's already betrayed their own side?
That's the thing about espionage. It's a dangerous game. And Sun Tzu knew that you're dealing with deception and betrayal, so you always have to be careful.
So trust no one.
Pretty much. But in all seriousness, Sun Tzu stressed the importance of vetting your spies carefully and always having multiple sources of information.
So you don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got local spies, inward spies. What's next?
Okay, hit me with it.
Next up, we've got converted spies. These are enemy agents who you've captured, but instead of imprisoning them, you convince them to switch sides.
Talk about a power move.
It's a risky strategy, but if you can pull it off, it can be incredibly effective.
I bet. Getting inside your enemy's intelligence operation could give you a serious advantage.
Absolutely. And then you've got doomed spies.
Doomed spies. It doesn't sound good.
It's not for them anyway. These are the poor saps you send to spread disinformation.
So they're basically walking, talking pieces of fake news.
Exactly. You use them to mislead the enemy, sow discord, and create chaos.
Ooh, that's cold-blooded. But effective, I'm sure.
It can be, but it's a last resort kind of tactic.
Makes sense. So we've got local spies, inward spies, converted spies, and doomed spies. That's 4. What's the 5th and final type of spy?
Last but not least, we have surviving spies. These are the ones you send behind enemy lines to gather intel and actually make it back alive.
So they're like the special forces of the spy world.
Exactly. Highly trained, highly skilled, and very, very lucky.
It sounds like Sun Tzu really thought of everything when it came to espionage.
He did. He believed that information was just as important, if not more important, than any weapon in your arsenal.
And it makes sense, right? If you know what your enemy is planning, you can counter their moves and stay one step ahead.
Exactly. And that brings us back to what we were discussing earlier about knowing yourself and your enemy.
Ah, yes, that famous quote. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles.
Precisely. It all ties together. Sun Tzu believed that the more you know about yourself and your enemy, the better equipped you are to make strategic decisions.
It's about having that 360-degree view of the battlefield, right? Understanding not just your own strengths and weaknesses, but also those of your opponent.
Absolutely. And that's how you achieve victory without even having to fight.
Which is the ultimate goal, right? To win without bloodshed.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of Sun Tzu's Art of War. It's not just about brute force and domination. It's about strategy, cunning, and using your intellect to outmaneuver your opponent.
It's about being adaptable, resourceful, and always thinking a few steps ahead.
Precisely. And those are all qualities that are just as relevant today as they were centuries ago.
That's so true. And you know what I find really fascinating about the art of war is how it can be applied to so many different areas of life. It's not just about military strategy anymore.
Right. Businesses use it, athletes use it, even politicians use it. It's a timeless guide to achieving success in any competitive field.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up our deep dive into the art of war.
I agree. It's been an enlightening conversation.
It really has. So for our listeners who are eager to learn more about Sun Tzu and his brilliant but slightly terrifying strategies, I highly recommend checking out Lionel Giles's 1910 translation of The Art of War. You can find it online or at your local bookstore, and trust me, it's worth a read.
It is. You might just be surprised at how relevant these ancient teachings still are in our modern world.
Until next time, happy strategizing.